Welcome to FBTV, a very special edition. We have with us our Grandmaster, Most Worshipful Brother Richard Elkington, OAM. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ash, and thank you particularly to those, well, lots of brethren actually, who either called, sent me an SMS or an email congratulating me, and I very much appreciated that. It just shows you how many people read the papers actually. Wow, and it was broadcast, of course, via a message by Freemasons Victoria. But in many ways, I acknowledge the influence that Freemasons had over my entire life.
Well, for this chat, let's make it about you, and let's talk about not just you personally, but a life, and how people in their own circumstances can perhaps follow some examples that you have learned over the years, and how you can best serve the community. And I'd like to start right from the start, if we may. Tell us about your family background. Where did it all start for you, Richard?
My parents emigrated to the Latrobe Valley in 1949. My father followed my grandfather to Australia. They were both employed at that time in the construction of housing in their housing estates in Newborough, provided for workers at the SEC. My father then moved on to become an operator. My grandfather moved to become a teacher at Yallourn Technical School, Yallourn Technical College. We went back to Scotland in end of 52, beginning of 53, and then came back in 1955. So we were back in Scotland for 2 years. When my father returned, he became an operator at Yallourn Power Station. That's all I remember.
Richard, can I just stop you there? What type of lad were you in those early 1950s?
Well, I was pretty sickly, actually. I'd had my tonsils removed when I was 5. That was first year at primary school, grade 1. And I almost died. My father was actually called from the power station to the hospital, Yallourn Hospital, because I was about to die. I didn't. And I still recall that period. So I was quite sickly as a child. I'd lost a lot of weight, extremely thin. But I actually loved going to school.
What type of student were you?
I was very good on the academic stuff, very good at both secondary school and primary school, lousy on the stuff with the hands, like practical, anything practical, I was awful at. And that's maintained through to this day.
And yet you have an engineering mind.
I do. I was very good at mathematics, excellent at mathematics, actually. Did you know I was Dux at Yallourn Tech? Did you know that, Ash?
No, I didn't. Is there an honour board?
There was an honour board. I don't know what the honour board is now. But as a consequence of being that, I was then offered a SEC scholarship. And so SEC paid for my entire tertiary education and employed me during the school holidays at the end of the year in part-time employment.
So you were Yallourn Tech, and the SEC, the State Electricity Commission, recognised you. So it was almost natural that you would find a career there. Is that right?
That's all I ever wanted to be. I wanted to be the operations manager at Yallourn Power Station.
What were your tertiary studies?
Mechanical engineering.
And where did you do that?
At Gippsland Institute of Advanced Education, which is now, well, that morphed into Monash University, and it's now Fed Uni, the same campus. So
was that a diploma or a degree?
Yeah, it was a diploma of mechanical engineering. Back until 1980, those who did diplomas in Victoria were recognised for membership of the Institution of Engineers. And so I had no actually desire to do any more engineering because I was lousy at the practical stuff. I used to get 95 to 100% for the theoretical subjects like mathematics, thermodynamics, fluid mechanics, chemistry. I actually got over 100 one year. But I was very good at the academic stuff, but practically they used to give me 100% for trying and 0 for ability. How's that?
So, Richard, here you are as a student. You've been recruited by the SEC. You're finding your way in the operations of the State Electricity Commission. You're finding what you can do and what you can't do. And you start to become a manager.
I did. But before that, the other interesting thing, when I reflect back on that, I started getting involved in local politics, I think at the age of about 16 or 17. There was a major campaign in the municipality I was then living in about differential rates. And I thought this was awful thing actually. And so I worked on a campaign for an independent councillor actually. So I got involved with politics at a community level quite early. And it didn't seem to me to be unnatural. If you've got a view, get up and express it. We've got, it's about trying to change, create a better society. That's what we are. That's what we're created for, I believe.
What do you think politics has taught you? What does politics mean?
Well, you know what politics comes from the Greek meaning citizen, but politics to me is understanding of people. I learnt very early. I think I stood for the council when I was about 24, I think. I learned then that you don't hate your political opponent. We are all working together, endeavouring to create a better society. That's where we all have that aim as individuals. And so let's respect that. We might have different ideologies, different routes to getting to our vision of what our town or our state or our country looks like. We're all endeavouring to work. Let's respect the fact we're all volunteers. We're putting our time and energies into creating a better society. That's what I learned, really. It's the first thing I remember learning.
Richard, you were involved
from campaign.
You've told us how you're involved in politics from about the age 16. What are some of the other community activities that you started to become involved with at about the same time?
Well, I was involved with scouting. I was involved with scouting. I think I was kicked out of the Rovers. I think it was 24 back in my day. I was still wearing shorts. I was still dressed up in shorts to go to the Rovers. I was involved. I think I joined I had a Sunbeam Alpine. I joined the local car club. I always wanted to sing. When I was a student, I used to sing in the school choir. Despite all the abuse I copped, I enjoyed singing in the school choir. I signed up for the Latrobe Light Opera Society in, I think it was beginning of 1973. I signed up for the choir. I always wanted to be on the stage. And so I signed up for the Latrobe Light Opera Society. It was a number of productions, including Gilbert and Sullivan material, which I enjoyed. And then I think I stood for federal parliament in 1970 at the 1977 election. And it's almost as though that was called a seminal moment, I actually realised that there is a life, that pursuing a political life is not the be-all and end-all.
Well, at that point, let's talk about family life. About this time, you meet Kathleen.
That's right. I was actually I was in final year engineering. Kathleen was in first year nursing, I think. And we got married in 1973, September 1973. She had come from a family whose father was also working in the electricity industry. She qualified as a nurse in about 1973. But when we were on our honeymoon, actually, our honeymoon, she got her results of her examination. And then we had children in 1977 and again in 1979. So by that time, I'd moved from Newborough, not Maui, Newborough. That's a local in joke. Newborough to Traralgon. So I've been in Traralgon since early 1973. So I'm not quite qualified as a local yet, but I've been there all that time.
Richard, we're talking about mid-70s now. When did you find Freemasonry, or when did Freemasonry find you?
Well, that's interesting, actually, because sort of when I was endeavouring to re-establish my engineering career post trying to become a member of Parliament, I felt I'd lost my sense of values, become too obsessed with, at an early age, really, with being a member of Parliament, with noble motives. It was about creating a better society. But I felt as though I'd lost my sense of values, and I needed to find one without dogma. So I went to a Rotary meeting. I was invited to go to Rotary. I was told that you have to be invited. And so the Masons invited me first. So I joined Freemasonry in, I think I would have been signed up in 1979. But I didn't join until early 1980. And I sort of enjoyed it straight away for a number of reasons. One is I did not join a lodge in the Latrobe Valley. I joined a lodge 50 kilometres away at Hayfield. So I was mixing with a completely, apart from the few members who'd signed me up, I was meeting and mixing with a completely different group of people than those I worked with. And I thought that was pretty healthy, actually.
Richard, we've got textbook answers for this, but how do you define Freemasonry? What is it?
For me, Freemasonry is a teaching and learning institution. And I say that I channel an old mentor of mine, Robert Parasine, who also argued Freemasonry is a teaching and learning institution. And often we haven't taught. But in my case, it provided, even its obligations, in many of the charges that we hear. So I recognised earlier that these obligations actually mean something. You need to be not an atheist to become a member. It is not a substitute for a religious belief, but it does teach you some principles to live your life by. And I tried very hard to use the principles I learned in Freemasonry to my personal life, to my business life, and to my managerial career in the electricity industry.
What are your favourite memories about Freemasonry? What comes to mind that, oh, I really love that moment?
Well, when I joined the Royal Arch chapter 6 months after I became a Master Mason. And whilst this might not be a politically correct answer, I reckoned at that time I could go to a chapter meeting every night of the week and wouldn't be bored. Is it about the ritual? Well, it's part of it. Is it about the people? It's part of it. It's more about the learning. There are so many opportunities to learn stuff, not only in the craft, but also in the Holy Royal Arch. So that was a moment, I think, that inspired me to sort of continue. I think, I'm trying to think of something really simple, actually, but certainly becoming a Master Mason. A Master Mason is a significant point. Well, being an initiate first, and then a Master Mason is a significant point in your Masonic career, because that then is the springboard to attaining leadership in Freemasonry.
So, Richard, you mentioned that you could be out every night of the week and be happy doing so.
Yep.
Now, everyone has their own schedule of what they feel is appropriate for being out at night, so to speak. For some, it's lodges once a month or twice a month with rehearsals. Others, they visit. You have an extraordinary schedule of visiting, and I suspect you've been doing that all of your adult life.
Well, it's about trying to find the right balance. And at one stage, I was the chairman of Gippsland Water. I was a senior executive in the energy sector. I was on the executive council of the Victorian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I was a member of all my own lodges, and I was a member of I was in a number of grand teams. Too many, probably. But I tried to balance it. Like, I always had Sundays off. And an old politician taught me that lesson. In fact, he was a Freemason, Frank Wilkes. I remember saying to me, always take a day off to have with your family. And so I used to work very long hours in the electricity industry. So when I wasn't going to lodge or gallivanting with the grand team, I was at work. I was in a 24-hour, 7 days a week industry. And so I was always available to attend to my work. That was a priority for me. That's what kept us fed and clothed, if you like. That's what provided the stimulus. I loved going to work. I used to wake up every morning. I just loved going there. Well, because I had a reasonable degree of control over what it is I was doing. And I really liked helping people to solve their own problems. So whichever managerial job I've been in, from the first one at Geelong Power Station, in charge of a whole bunch of operators, many of whom had worked with my father, through to my last one, which was, general manager of people and corporate relations and environment and a whole bunch of stuff together. I used to love getting involved with helping my managers to prepare their own strategic plan, to measure, to look at how they were performing, to intervene when I thought it necessary, but not get involved in detail, and to help them solve their problem. So in other words, come in when you see it going a bit off the rails, intervene, suggest a solution, work with them to develop the solution. And then, so don't get involved in doing their job for them, but to help them to do their job. And I apply this
Richard,
same
could I
principle.
interrupt there? Because we were talking about the pace that you lived, of going out many nights during the week. To do that, you have quite a focus on your own health and well-being.
Oh, yeah.
You're a non-smoker.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a drinker of alcohol.
No.
And you keep medical checks. You go more often to the doctor than he wants to see you.
Correct.
So you do a lot of testing to make sure that you're on top of your game.
I did that. I did all that. Going back to I was acutely aware of maintaining reasonable health because I survived on comparatively little amount of sleep, like 5-6 hours a night maximum. I started running. So I gave away cigarettes and alcohol in the 80s because I was working. I was on call all the time. I was about reducing the stress you're under. I started running and exercising in about 1986. I started meditating in the mid 2000s. Meditation has really been a very significant part of my life, actually.
What is it for you?
For me, it's about relaxing your mind. Meditation and sleep are two different things, but it's about relaxing the muscles in your body, detaching your mind from your external circumstances, and then focusing on your own well-being. So I actually do it during lodge meetings. People think I'm asleep.
You do it when you're driving, don't you?
You do. You can do it when you're driving, yes.
Yeah. Is it something that you learn?
Oh, yeah. I remember going to a meditation course about giving up smoking, I think it was, back in the 1980s. And I was singularly unsuccessful at it. Couldn't understand how anybody could relax. Why would you want to relax for? Just light up another smoke, that makes you feel better. And so 20 years later, I actually can relax that sort of anytime.
So do you think that leads to better judgments, better analysis of problems, working your way through strategic solutions?
Oh, absolutely. When I went to the Gawler Foundation, where I did my meditation course back in 2005, I think, I actually used it to meditate on problems to help me get a clear view of a potential solution. It's remarkable. It's remarkable how fast time goes during meditation. So, for example, last night I meditated on a particular issue, and in some things, sprang to mind, which I then shared with a number of other people. Well, I've meditated on this, and this is what I'm thinking.
Yes.
And so I'm not one to act preemptively. So I generally share what I think with others because I think it's the right thing to do, apart from anything else. And so it does help. Richard,
we're looking at your third year now as Grand Master of Freemasons Victoria, a fraternity of 7,500 men approximately, and all their families and everyone who comes along with that. What does the leadership of an organisation require?
That's a very good question, actually.
Well, I don't ask bad ones.
No, you don't. A very good question because it's been a subject that's been debated for years. In fact, we used to say leader of an order. I think the correct term is head of an order. Leadership is quite different. Leadership is a skill in itself. And I just hope that my learnings, my leadership in the community, various things, in industry associations, in business, in the community, in Freemasonry, means I've acquired a certain wisdom over many years. I've enhanced leadership with attendance on a number of courses. For example, I'll give you a simple one. I went to see I watched a video back in about 1980 with John Cleese on how to deliver bad news. And it was about getting around the table and meeting on the same level as the individual you're counselling and having a one-on-one. So I tried that. And so I always had a good relationship with the trade union, at least I hope I did in the Latrobe Valley. And so I tried that, discussing a serious union issue by not sitting on one side of the table and the unions on the other, but coming and meeting at the same level and just having a discussion. And I found that actually worked. And it worked in disciplinary situations as well. It wasn't me using my power. It was about working with people at the same level. And so when you ask what about leadership's about, it's about fundamentally understanding yourself and then understanding yourself in relation to the person you're dealing with, and understanding yourself in relation to the whole situation. So where do I fit into the power station? And understanding yourself in relation to the community. And you know what? That's the principles of Freemasonry.
Yeah. So with Freemasonry as Grand Master, people often see you wearing the bling in a lodge room, visiting, installing, presenting things. But in fact, that's only a very small fraction of what a Grand Master or a Masonic leader does. I think what you're telling us is that it's the interchange with people, making them feel better about themselves and more equipped to do their own tasks.
You're right. One of the challenges in this job, I don't believe it's difficult for me, is I have to be an exemplar of the teachings and the values and the principles of this organisation. You might call it putting on an act, but yeah, there's a certain amount of play acting in this job, because in many ways you need to meet the expectations of the members, and a lot of that acting bit comes with the bling. I'm not naturally inclined to put on medals and whatever, and a set of tails and walk around, and that's the ceremonial bit. The other bit is actually I spend most of my time talking to people, coming to BAT meetings, don't spend the whole time there, dropping in, checking that things are going well, convening meetings when you are just a problem. And so if you like, the administrative and managerial and leadership part of being Grand Master far outweighs the ceremonial demands. And I think that's how it should be. Sure, we have full-time staff, we have a Grand Secretary, we have a commercial manager, we have a whole range of staff employed to give life to the strategic plan, but essentially the future for the time being of Freemasonry is vested in me. I need to be not only the figurehead, but also put myself into a position where I can influence the direction of the organisation in a positive way without directing anyone to do so. It's about working through people to get the best result for the fraternity.
Richard, we promised ourselves that we would do a 30-minute chat, and we're almost at that point now. So we're up to the final question stage, and I would have liked to have covered a lot more. But you've been honoured with the Medal of the Order of Australia, and the citation wasn't just about Freemasonry, it was about all your community involvements. And you've gone on record as noting the appreciation to how your family has helped you
absolutely
get to that point.
Well, Kathleen actually just probably deserves it more than I do for putting up with me for so long.
But my question would be, what now do you see for the future of Freemasons Victoria?
I actually think the future of Freemason Victoria is very good. I mean, I haven't spent the last 2 years in this post. albeit with a large periods in lockdown, without pursuing an agenda to make this organisation better. We have got new contemporary governance arrangements in place, particularly on the commercial side, so we can leverage our commercial property for the betterment of the membership. At the end of the day, it's about the member experience. So we can make our premises we're meeting more contemporary, more attractive. That's a great outcome. We spent a lot of time on culture, and we haven't spoken a lot about it recently, but we will see over the next few months material come out about culture. It's about, in other words, some material on training and development of members. We've done a lot of work on behaviour associated with that culture. Because if Freemasonry is a teaching and learning institution, we need to teach so that our brethren can learn. And in many ways, it depends on how you view what this organisation is. But for me, it's about teaching and learning. So everything we've done, whether it's in the culture space, behaviour space, training space, pursuing a Masonic Centre of Excellence, whatever, putting ourselves in a better financial position, it's all about creating an organisation which is relevant, is professional, and provides a great experience for the members joining the organisation and who are attracted to the organisation. That's what it's about.
We've been speaking with the Grand Master of Freemasons Victoria, Most Worshipful Brother Richard Elkington, OAM. We've had a terrific half hour. Richard, thank you very much for giving us your time and telling us about your thoughts on life, on leadership, and on Freemasonry.
Thank you, Ash, and best wishes to all of the members and their families who are watching this particular broadcast. Thank you.